This is the Business Storytelling Show, a top global marketing podcast listened to in more than 100 countries, live streamed on social media, and broadcast on DBTV. Christoph Trapp chats with industry leaders to help your company tell better business stories.
Episode 720 on deck here. And we're going to be talking about how do we get content to actually drive real results? And what does that mean? Yes, we want it to make money. Does upper, top of the funnel, is that still a thing? Do we still care about that? Middle of the funnel, some argument there maybe. And then the bottom of the funnel, certainly we want it to drive revenue. But how do we actually create content that does that? So who better to talk to than Sheri Otto, who doesn't just create content, but she engineers demand. Now, that's some great content right there for a bio. So let's get her on the show here and find out, how do you actually do that? Welcome, Sheri.
What's up, Christoph? Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to talk about this particular topic, especially in the AI era where content is everywhere. So we're going to get into some really cool things today. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Let's get onto the topic. And growthlanestrategies.com is Sheri's website. Scrolls at the bottom. You can check that out now or later. Any comments, leave them in the comments section and we'll try to get to them as it makes sense. Now, let's talk about, what does it even mean for content to have an impact? I mean, there certainly is different phases, different places. I mean, the thing you just said, your bio, I mean, certainly that's a great piece of content right there. But how do you define that? What does content look like? What does success look like?
Yeah, well, that's a broad question. And every piece of content, every profile headline, every email, everything about you tells a story. Kind of like the name of your podcast, Christoph. Like, it's going to let your audience know how they should interact with you, how they then sort of categorize you in their mind and place you. So we're always communicating messages through our content. And a lot of times what I'm seeing, especially in the B2B industry, in the SaaS community, like, we're creating a bunch of content. There's content teams. We're all really focused on making sure we're checking off boxes to get things published. But there's a core piece that's missing. And it's how to actually take your messages, your content pieces, no matter where it is on the funnel, and how do we actually turn that into sort of demand generation? And what does that look like for the right scenario, for the right channel, for the right audience? Every piece of content matters. And if we're not magnetizing our contacts down the funnel and closer to a buying decision, then we're missing some opportunities and we're leaving money on the table, Christoph.
And who wants to do that? Not me. Not even playing poker or anything like that either. But so, it's interesting what you just said. I mean, every piece of content really just has to have a purpose. So there's some articles on christophtrapp.com that have no direct impact on revenue, but I know that topic, I know something about, people will search for it, and it helps my SEO juice. It does help it. And then I have some articles, I think I just wrote one over the weekend that was about page titles, right? Website page titles. And then I pretty up high the funnel too, but then I had affiliate links to AI tools, believe it or not, that can help you do that. Now, if they can do a good job or not, that's a whole different story, but at least they do exist. What is the role of AI? I mean, AI just, I mean, the next time somebody says to me, they're unleashing their knowledge, I'm like, just stop.
I know.
Stop. Use words that people would actually use.
Yeah. In the world, in this digital transformation, I'm like, oh, no. Stop. I can easily spot super generic content that's created from my AI. Now, listen, I'm a proponent of AI. We need to absolutely use AI, but we're using it the wrong way. And it's funny, I actually posted about this on my LinkedIn today about how we are underutilizing AI. We're treating it sort of as an unpaid intern to just create content for us. And we're actually not really doing a bad job. We're not really good prompt engineers, Christoph. We're terrible. We might think that we're saying, use the tone, style, and voice of this blog, and then just write me a blog or write me that's still not good enough. We've got to do better. But what we're not using AI for is really where it's powerful, and where the magic is with AI, especially when it comes to business growth, is the ability to synthesize vast amounts of data. So then you, as a business owner, founder, marketer, can have these keen insights on where to focus your energies, apply your resources, and really create campaigns that actually are going to drive revenue for the business. And that's how you use AI with content according to the data that it's sharing with you and the insights that it's telling you to create the right type of content for the right audience at the right time. And it is a marketing ecosystem. There are steps. Like, you're not going to sell on social media an enterprise solution, but you might attract some folks, and some folks might prefer to consume content through emails. And a lot of C-suite executives really just want to listen to some podcasts while they're doing some other things. So if you know these things, using AI's help to tell you how your audience likes to consume information, and then you use that to develop those specialized campaigns, and you use content and the way you phrase your messaging, and you use behavioral science, and you use sales strategies in your messaging, you can actually magnetize people and create compelling reasons for them to want to explore your offers and solutions.
And all those things kind of go hand in hand, right? So here's the Sheri Otto funnel on, entering my life, so to speak. So I saw you speak at, I don't remember the conference now, Jay Schwedelson's conference, the email marketing conference.
Yeah, I helped produce that. Yeah.
That's been a while, right? That's been like 2 years
2
or
years.
something. And then so then we connect, then I see your social posts. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Then you're on another podcast. I'm like, oh, that's even interesting. And, that's even more interesting. And now this and this and this. And now, like, who comes top of mind if I ever have to hire somebody for domain gen in the tech space, right? You. But how do you measure all that? How do you, other than when somebody like me who's chit-chatty and tells you how it worked, for me, how do you even know?
Yeah, that is honestly, that's one of the best questions I can get, because the branding, the thought leadership, some of the top of funnel assets and campaigns are really hard to measure. It is hard to measure marketing ROI. What I like to share with my clients and what I like to do in my business and who I'm working with is to help them understand, like, how brand recall, the number of opportunities to get invited on podcasts like your business storytelling podcast, how you are showing up. Someone told me the other day I was in the AI search results. Like, these are the like, for what? Like, just they were doing a search result with AI on agency owners. So brand mentions is a really good way to measure how you're doing with brand awareness and brand recall. Another thing is, like, how when people do come into your ecosystem and they're commenting or sharing feedback back with you, how closely is the communication really related to the messages you think you're putting out there to the world? Like, so marketing is sending messages out, but branding is how your audience perceives you, and how closely aligned is that? So that's one really good way to measure how your messages are cutting through and landing with your ICP and your target audience. And I think a last way that's a little bit more concrete way to measure marketing ROI is just to really understand, of course, attribution models, first touch, last touch, but also just like those qualitative pieces. How did you come to learn about me? Everyone, no matter whether you're enterprise or scale up or startup, you really need to, of course, use your quantitative data, but use your qualitative data and understand the paths people are taking. How did you come to learn about us? And take it a step further, Christoph, not just ask them, how did you learn about us? What made you decide to do business with us? Everyone should get that coming through your funnel at the end. At the bottom of the funnel, if they convert, you need to ask that question. It could be a very automated way. That question needs to happen. But one step further is in asking those, and I just talked about this earlier, but one step further is to understand, like, the moment that they recognize value. When I worked at HubSpot, we talked about, we really measured activation or time to value, or when they really recognize the value of the product. That's an aha moment that you want to sort of scale for more people. And so maybe it is when you saw me with Jay Schwedelson and we were doing 25 email marketing tips in 45 minutes. And actually a lot of people have told me that. So maybe I need to go talk to my friend Jay and do more, right? So those are the things that you can use to start measuring your branding or your top of funnel, even combined with some of the data that you can pull from your CRM.
Jay is really good at building an audience. We know that. I mean, his podcast is constantly in the top 2 globally or nationwide or whatever it is in the marketing category. Now, I don't remember who said this. I think it was last week. So it must have been Neil Schaefer who said this actually, is you should absolutely use AI like an intern. But here's the problem with that. Don't just use it like an intern. You also have to treat it like an intern. So an intern, you got to give feedback to, right? So you have to say this and this and this and this. And, I love using AI. I mean, I'm going to use this episode. We're going to search it and see if there's other episodes where there's content we can make one big article out of, right? That would take me forever to do manually, but I'm just going to upload the transcript and go, okay, Sheri talked about this. Who talked about something similar? Do we have an article on a related topic with 4 people or whatever it might be? So that's a great way to use it. Now, you heard me talk a little bit about the top of the funnel, middle, and bottom. And certainly that was a little bit of a reaction because to me, it seems like a lot of companies, they only want the bottom of the funnel content right now. Like, forget about the people who are ready to buy in 8 months. How do we get them to like see the end of the tunnel?
Okay, so first of all, there's a stat out there, and I was doing a webinar with the Marketing Alliance, and there was a stat that I had in one of my slides, which was actually really sort of sobering. People in the consideration phase of the buyer's journey consume 47% more content than any other phase in the journey. So people who want content are actually in that evaluation and learning phase. So that's middle of the funnel, although companies focus on bottom of the funnel as well as top of the funnel with a bunch of social posts and things like that. So everyone is really wanting more content, more juice, more info, more information inside that when they're considering that they want more education, and we're just not cranking that type of content out. I don't know why it's like it's unsexy or something to do a case study. I have no idea. Like, why are case studies so hard? Why are industry reports and HubSpot's really good at that. Like, why are these types of middle of the funnel pieces like not the thing to really focus on and sort of that middle relationship piece? And I think one of the answers to that is just we just are not quite sure how to measure like success in the middle of the funnel, like taking a cold lead to become a warm lead. Like, what's that success metric? And so I think that's probably one of the reasons why we're not doing that. But it is a need now, and folks are wanting storytelling. They are wanting comparisons. And why not be the one to own that narrative versus them going out to ChatGPT or all these other areas where they're trying to like dig for information because they're going to do it on their own before they meet with a sales rep. Own the narrative and create the stories around your brand. Create those case studies, testimonies. Screenshot a compliment on LinkedIn. That is put that screenshot in your email. That is a story. That's a testimony. We know social proof weighs really heavy on the buying decision. So these are functions I think I'd love to champion more and kind of push more B2B leaders to focus on.
I think the one thing that's really easy to forget about is the more content you have out there, the more podcasts you're on, the more articles you have on your own site, on other sites, wherever you name it, the harder it is for somebody else to take over your story, right? When people search for you, I mean, all of like when you search for my name, it's all podcasts I've done. It's all articles I've done. I mean, if somebody looks at my stuff and says, oh, this guy is full of it, that's my own fault, right? But they should be hearing what I want them to hear anyways, because it's all the stuff I produce one way or another. So how do you get leaders to buy in, and how do you get them to really get that content engine going, and what's enough and what's not enough? I mean, where's the fine line?
Well, a blanket answer to that is just back away from all like the pieces of social media you think you need to do. Because by the way, if you just do the transcript to this podcast, or you just take a long form piece of content and you slice that thing up and you kind of cut it up, you have your top of funnel stuff. So if we begin to educate our leaders in the value of relationships, especially right now when AI is such a huge part of our lives, then they can, and it's hard to say, well, if you strengthen this relationship here, then you're going to start to see higher pipeline velocity. If we just begin putting some of these lead nurture initiatives here, let's just get a baseline of our pipeline velocity, which is just, like how people are coming into your pipeline, customer lifetime value, and that conversion rate into pipeline. Like, let's just take a snapshot of it before we start this sort of relationship and lead nurture initiative. And then let's just measure what happens when we start to reenact and re-engage our dead contacts who just have been dormant because we've left them kind of hanging because we're focused on like the wrong things sometimes. Or can we use AI and employ AI to tell us who's actually kind of close to further along in the buyer's journey, who we might just need to put one more piece of content in front of, who just needs a little bit of nudging over the edge? Who are those people? And AI can tell you that data and then create a specialized campaign for them. And then that's, again, just inside your database or inside people who are around your environment, around your business. Start to do those initiatives and track those down funnel metrics. You can have a few of those and then present that to leadership and say, okay, you see what happens when we do this? I think this is something we need to scale a little bit more or develop more power and initiatives with AI, machine learning, predictive analytics to really dig in here, because this is an opportunity. We're missing some money that we're leaving on the table here. So
the whole re-engaging thing doesn't make any sense to me when companies don't do it. And, props here to American Airlines. Actually, they called me, get this. So I was executive platinum for 4 years or something, flew around the world, blah, 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 blah. It was too much, but it was also fun. And I was, in all the programs and all that stuff. And they called and they said, hey, we just wanted to check in. There's this new program you might find value in and whatever. And I just said, hey, I really don't fly much anymore today, but thanks for reaching out. But it's just like them putting the mindset, that thing in my head, right? I'm like, oh, why am I not flying anymore? Am I okay just doing virtual? You know what I mean? It's just like brilliant. But why can't companies think of that? Or are they think they're going to annoy people?
No, they're pressured. Christoph, they have their stakeholders, their board of directors. They have all of these people to answer to, and they short circuit to the end result, to the demand and to the revenue, and it really leans towards push more volume, maybe push more ad spend, do more versus backing up and looking at it from a strategic perspective. And really just being educated on the numbers. Like, I think there was a stat from MailChimp that said that a dead contact or an unengaged contact is still worth 33% as much as an engaged contact. So you have someone who's about 30% of the way to becoming a customer, and we're just kind of letting them hang. So stats like that say, okay, we'll try it. Give us the initiative, the sort of permission to begin investing there, because you have people around you. You just need to put in some lead nurturing. And I just don't think we have that practice down. And that engine is not running yet, just because their mind immediately goes to bottom line, volume, money, and ad spend and things like that, versus, okay, how can we be strategic and smart here and see what the data is telling us, and then go ahead and invest? And I think it just takes an extra effort, but we're just quite not there, not really willing to kind of open our eyes to some of these things. And it's a little bit of a mystery to me too. I think that there's so much you can do with a huge database. When I worked with HubSpot, I managed 2 million contacts. I was like, this is fun. What are they interested in? They are really interested in AI at the time. So we just ran a bunch of blogs that really talked about it. And that led to other things. But I think it has to just do with presenting the real data, and then just starting with an MVP, just something very small and simple, showing results, getting that proof of concept, and then saying, okay, now can I invest here or maybe hire for this particular role? Because I've been seeing that a lot of companies don't even have that role filled. That function is actually still vacant. So it's kind of concerning for sure. Yeah,
it is concerning. Now, how do you how much time do you have to give it? I mean, that's the other thing I hear quite often, oh, Christoph, how long until my podcast takes off? And I'm like, okay, here's all the goals for the podcast. And this one is going to be this quick, and this one is going to be this quick, and this one's going to take a little longer, and all these different things. Or insert whatever strategy. It could be SEO content. It could be anything. By the way, when it comes to showing up in AI, I see referrals from AI all the time. So it's not necessarily killing SEO. It's just making it more difficult for us to track because now it's a referral and not an SEO search anymore. But
Yeah.
how do you explain the timeline? How long should it take, when people just want to focus on the current quarter and they only got a week left?
Yeah. Well, then let's just do a bimodal approach, right? So like we'll do the low hanging fruit, quick wins. That's fine. Let's just do that. But then let's also say, okay, I'm going to spend, 30% doing those playbooks that we're used to running that we think can typically get us the results that we're used to seeing. And then we're going to allocate, the rest of the time to build the relationship, to build the strategy, to build it and understand, really set those expectations that this is a long game. And, you're going to need to wait. I would recommend at least 6 months. So 2 full quarters before you start to like look into getting that return on investment based on because you need enough data to be statistically significant. You need enough time. So that depends on how much volume how many contacts you have in your database. So all of these things are factors, but I think overall it's important to really set those expectations. Like this is just like SEO is different from search. And just like social media or community-led growth is going to be different from something that's more direct sales or email. So like you're really going to have to like bucket a lot of these initiatives and then put your expectations on return on investment timeframes according to that. And then say, okay, this is a new quarter coming up. So Q2 is, coming up in a few weeks. Like, what do we want to do there? We want to start bucketing like the more direct return on investments and then start to build out these frameworks for long-term growth. That's really going to set people up and really set the business up to be more comprehensive, to actually really align more closely with the trends, who want more human connection, who want more relationship building, who want a face, who want founders to come in there and talk about why their brand exists. So these are the things that you're going to need to sort of just continue coaching C-suite about, continue sharing the data and give them what they want, but then also encourage them that this is also a worthwhile initiative. Add some data there to tell them why, because that's what they speak in the numbers and statistics, and then kind of like move on from there. So that's kind of how I would approach it for sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You have to give it time and you have to look at what's working, but you also actually have to do, you know what I'm saying? So if you want to do a podcast and you're telling people, hey, 6 months, a year might work, or whatever, you might see the first results. The key is you have to start publishing that first podcast episode. I mean, if you wait until month 4, you're not going to see results in month 6. It's not going to
progress over perfection. Just get content out. Honestly, the bottom line is get the content out. You can learn, shift, and iterate from there. But if you're just sitting on content, and a lot of times we're just sitting if you did a webinar, I think you even talked to me about this. If you do a webinar and you're not cutting that up, it was you and I talking about cut that up and then just create campaigns, those magnetizing campaigns. Hey, did you see? This is straight from you, Christoph. Did you see what X person was talking about in this? Oh, here it is again. It's in this particular timestamp. Go check it out. It will help you do X, Y, Z. I don't see that as a common practice, honestly. So yeah.
I don't either. And first time I've ever been quoted by somebody on my own podcast, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. Please connect with Sheri, growthlanestrategies.com. And she's also active on LinkedIn. Nice to see you, Sheri, and we're out.
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the Business Storytelling Show on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. See you then.